Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
My teammates and their friendships have been such a huge part of my success. In 1997, my rookie year, I watched guys like Joey Galloway, Sam Adams, Kevin Mawae, Winston Moss, Philip Daniel, Chad Brown, and Willie Williams. I learned so much from these guys.
Kevin Mawae, you're one of the best and toughest opponent I ever faced. And I'm not even feeling real comfortable you sitting behind me right now, man. Look at him over there. But I'm so relieved to see you out of that ugly green jacket and wearing a gold one. It's nice.
The game of football is the greatest game in the world. There are few environments where a group of people of different upbringings, different backgrounds, different races, religions, and regions can come together and put aside every one of those differences for the common goal of putting the team together to win a game. The game of football taught me accountability, it taught me discipline, sacrifice, and selflessness. It developed in me grit, tenacity, and confidence. It challenged my faith, it grew my loyalty, it sealed my legacy.
All right, and with that being said, we want to welcome everyone to Canton, Ohio. We were supposed to be in Midland, Texas. Unfortunately, because of the weather that hit Texas and pretty much all across the United States, we are now doing this remotely. Thank you to the schools that have are connected in as attendees. You've obviously braved the weather in your respective states, and so appreciate you guys being here, connected in here today for this latest installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series, featuring today Pro Football Hall of Famer Kevin Mawae. And so my name is Jerry Shockey. I'm the Senior Director of Youth Education and Leadership here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're excited to have each and every one of you connected in here today. And so you might know, because some of you guys are repeat guests, the mission at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And our values that we hope to promote as part of our mission and what this program is all about here today of commitment, courage, honesty, integrity, and respect. And I'm excited, hopefully you are too, to hear these values and how these helped shape Kevin Mawae into the man he was on the field. But let's just say, most importantly, the man he is off the field. And what you'll find is his story off the field and just the type of person he is even more remarkable than what he is on the field. And so before we get started, we do need to do some thank yous out there, because you can see the the logo behind me. Thanks to our partners at Extreme Networks. Been sponsoring our youth educational programs in this Heart of a Hall of Famer series since 2014. They've been a long-term partner, and this does not happen without your generous support to make this possible. So thank you to our friends at Extreme Networks. Teachers, administrators that are connected in here today, thank you for braving the weather and making the connections and making all the technical arrangements and things like that to make this available to your students. A great learning experience for them. And then last but not least, the students that are connected here today. So we'll be, again, I'll have the chat open. We will also have YouTube live open. If there's any questions that are submitted that way, we'll answer those as well. But this is all about you guys here today and helping you guys take the next step in your lives. So let me remind schools, which are attendees only, so you don't have to worry about keeping your microphones muted. We've already got you muted anyways. If you are watching us on YouTube live, make sure you get your questions in the comment, like I just said. Leave your name. If you do that, leave your name, your school, and where you are, and then list your question. And then no matter where you're connecting in today to watch this, make sure to use any social platforms. Use the handle @ProFootballHOF and as well hashtag Hoff Values. So now that we've got those kind of housekeeping notes out of the way, let me get to a quick introduction of our special guest, Mr. Kevin Mawae. Now, Kevin was a 8-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro, played in 241 games over 16 seasons, and was named a member of the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 2000s. So if you would join me in just a virtual applause, I'm assuming that you are, and welcoming truly one of the great players and great men from the class of 2019, Mr. Kevin Mawae. So a lot more fun when there's interactive folks. They unmute the microphones, they clap, you can hear them. But hey, you know, we're rolling with it here today. So, Kevin, you know, I want to just open the floor for you to share any opening remarks that you'd like to share with the group, and then we'll get to questions.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who is on today. I know this weather down here in the Southeast has been a little tough for everybody. I was actually looking forward to going to Midland, Texas. I live in Southeast Texas in a small town of Burkeville. I'm from a small town of Leesville, Louisiana, which is only 40 minutes on the other side of the state line. So I was excited about going out there, but I'm glad I'm not being stuck out there because I canceled all the flights to Houston. And so, yeah, but I'm always excited about doing these programs, especially just to be able to share my story with the younger generation, young fans of football, and just to share the wisdom that I learned through the game and what helped me to become a Gold Jacket member and to be able to wear this ring that I have on, and the values of integrity, you know, honesty, courage, commitment, and respect. All of that goes into the fact of what I did to get to where I was or to where I made it. But they're lifelong lessons that help you just become a better person in general. And so I thank everybody who is on this call today or on the Zoom, and appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day to just take part in this. So whatever kind of wisdom you can glean, hopefully I can be an encouragement. I can be, you know, an encouragement to everybody out there, and just kind of help you fulfill the dreams that you might have for yourself.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And so let's start it off with just out of those values, when we think about the Hall of Fame values, commitment, courage, honesty, integrity, and respect, is there one that stands out more than the others?
Yeah, I think for me, the integrity is the one thing that has always meant a lot to me. I think integrity entails doing things the right way, being truthful, you know, giving your best and everything, not taking the shortcuts. Your word is your word, you know, and that's what a lot, you know, a man's known for his word. And if your word isn't valid and you don't stick to your word and you don't, you know, stick to that commitment, and it's kind of hard to pull one because they all intertwine with one another, then it makes a huge difference. But I think for me, the integrity part of it means more to me than any other. So it means it's who I am as a person. It's the character that you are when nobody's watching. Do you do the right things even though nobody else is around to watch? Do you stand out in the crowd because you do the right things and everybody doesn't? And so for me, the integrity part of it is one of the biggest ones that stands out of the 5 for me.
And so just thinking about the game of football and talking about character, what lessons did you learn from the game of football that you you know, apply to everyday life? What were some of the, especially as an offensive lineman, because you know we get to work with a lot of Hall of Famers, but I'll say O-linemen have a unique perspective. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I think character is a big deal. Um, Accountability for me and the things that I've achieved, 241 games. I was I wanted to be accountable to my teammates. I wanted them to know that they can count on me to be there when they needed me to be there, that I would do the right thing, that I would make the play, that I'd play through the hurts and the injuries and stuff like that. The commitment to being excellent, to being the best that I could possibly be. I think so many times everybody wants to be the greatest ever, and they forget about the fact how about you just be the best that you can be. Don't measure yourself up against somebody else, but at least the measuring stick should be, can you reach your fullest potential? And that's what football did for me. It gave me an avenue to stretch myself, to see how far I could go, both mentally and physically. It allowed me to learn the boundaries, my physical boundaries and mental capabilities. It stretched me as a man. It stretched me as a person. Football is and I've always said football is a selfish game that takes so much away from you, time away from your family. It destroys your body over a long period of time. Your commitment to your friends, there's things you can't do because of your commitment to football, and and the ability to overcome a lot of that to to reach the goals that you have for yourself. It taught me how to stick to things, to fight through the tough times, to enjoy the good times. And so just so much of anything that happens in normal day, everyday life, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. It's not a matter how bad the down is, it's how quickly you can bounce back up and get back in the fight. And life is the same way. Yeah, now as a 50, I turned 54 on Thursday. I have a 27-year-old son, a 23-year-old daughter. To see and watch them go through some of the things and have the wisdom that I gained through my lifetime to share with them and to be able to encourage them that, yeah, there's things going to be hard. There's some things you don't like. There's something that's actually they suck, and you just got to do it because it's what you're supposed to do. It's what you've been called to do. It's what your job is. It's what your purpose is. And I think above all things, understanding that everybody has a purpose in life. And the sooner you find out what that purpose is, then the easier the other things will fall into place.
And that's a big thing to talk about because when we talk about purpose in life, and I know, um, knowing your background and your upbringing and your faith and things like that. I mean, what would you define for you personally? What is your purpose in life? Because I think that shapes your on the field career, how you raise your
Yep.
children, how you're, all those things. Every is impacted by your purpose in life.
My purpose in life is to honor my wife, to honor my children, and raise them up in a way that they would go, so that when they're older, they won't depart apart from it. That's biblical. So I'm a Christian, and I believe in the principles of the Bible. And the other part of it is I feel like God has given me a platform to share my life, to encourage other people to be the best that they're capable of being. Everybody's been called to something. It takes some people longer to find out what that calling is. But I believe my purpose is to encourage people to find that calling. And once they do, to be the biggest cheerleader I can for them, to help them become all that they're capable of being. I've spoken before. It's been documented with the Hall of Fame that I had a quote from the legendary coach John Wooden in my locker that said, "Success is a peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing that you did your very best to become the best you're capable of being." And so my goal and my purpose is to encourage people to be the best that they can, the best that they're capable of. Stop trying to measure yourself up against the likes and dislikes on social media and against people in your classroom and in life, and just be the best person that you can be. You be the best version of you that you possibly be. Treat other people the way you want to be treated, and good things will happen. And so for me, my purpose is, aside from the family aspect of it, is to encourage people to attain and achieve all that they think and hope that they can.
And to go along with that encouraging element, I mean, you have had a lot of influences in your life. I mean,
Yeah.
could be, parents, could be pastors, could be coaches, teachers, whoever it might be. Who are some of those people? Because you talked about you want to help shape people as well in their lives, not only your children, but other people that you have influence in your life. Um, who are some of those people in your life that help shape you into the man and even into your faith as a Christian, those things
Yeah.
in your life that has helped shape you into the man you are today?
Well, it starts with my mom and dad. My dad, career Army sergeant, career soldier, in the Army, and my mom and how they raised four boys. A lot of families wish they had everything. A lot of kids wish they could get more. Well, we were no different, but mom and dad gave us everything we needed. And the discipline that they instilled in us. When your mom is a supervisor at a warehouse and the job is full of men and she's the boss, and your dad is a sergeant in the Army, there wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room. So to understand that there's a way to do things, there's a right way to do them and a wrong way. My brother tells his kids, he goes, "There's two ways of doing things. There's the right way," and he goes, "There's the wrong way, and there's my way." And so we kind of grew up that way with my dad, but it really instilled in you a work ethic to want to do things right the first time. And aside from my parents, I had a coach that I'm very fond of, Kenny Farrow, who spoke words into my life as a rookie, as a freshman at LSU, and he was the first coach that ever told me I had what it takes to play in the NFL. I'll never forget that. I'm still very close to Coach Farrow today. As a matter of fact, he's he's from, he's a legendary coach from Kilgore, Texas. They won 2 state titles there when he coached there, and he's going to be inducted into the Southwest Texas Coaches Hall of Fame or something like that. So he played a big part in it. And then, from a spiritual standpoint, Carl Payne was my team chaplain with the Seattle Seahawks when I first came to my faith. He mentored me and guided me in ways that I never thought possible. And then later on, Dino Rizzo, who was my pastor at the time, was a pastor at Healing Place Church in Baton Rouge. He now works for a church in the Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. And he's the guy that kind of led me to my faith, and then became one of my best friends. Been in my life for a long time. My wife and I have been married 31 years coming up. And he married my wife and I. And at the time, I wasn't walking in my faith, and he was just a guy we hired to do our wedding. And in the time since, he's become my spiritual advisor in all things important. Prays for my family on a regular basis, and so just those are handfuls of people. There's other people in my life that had an influence on me, but those who had a more significant impact, those would be the people that I would say most did.
The reason why I wanted to share that, I want our young people to understand that there are people that are out there that not only are there to mentor you, but desire to and feel very much, a calling in their life to mentor young people. And it's not always, we always have to be honest, like my wife's testimony is one that she grew up with a broken home, addiction, all kinds of stuff. By the time which is remarkable, by the time she was 24, she actually bought her first home. But she had lived in 32 different houses before that because she was going from house to house, boyfriend to boyfriend with her mom and those kind of things. And so my point in that saying that is she did not have the structure at home that a lot of some families do and a lot of families do. But there are others to be looking for, your coaches, your band directors, your choir directors, your pastors, your scout leaders. So there are people that are out there that you have a circle of people around you, and that's one of the big things for me to get across to young people, and something I do quite often in professional and personal ministries as well, is to understand that students, you're not alone. You do, whether you recognize it or not, you are not alone, and you have people around you that want to help you and help you take the next step in your life. And so I want to really convey that to you students here today, that Kevin Mawae is who he is today because he leaned, not only did he have the circle networks, but then having the humility to lean on those people. And I think that's big too.
I want to jump in. I think the biggest thing right there is, especially for young people today, is like you have to be willing to open up to people. And that's an easy thing to say as an adult. It's a hard thing to say to a 14, 15, 16-year-old high school student that just open up, be honest, and share what you're going through. And the reality of it is that once you do, you'll find out that there's other people in your circle that may be going through the same thing you're going through that you don't even know because you're willing to open up. They're willing to open up so that people who want to help you see them. Lots of times things happen in people's lives that they close it up. Nobody believes me. Nobody sees what I'm going through. Nobody cares. And there's more people in your life that do care about you to succeed, to grow, to become all that you're capable of being. You just got to be willing to accept that part of it. And it's being vulnerable, not easy to ask a young person to do, to be real with everybody and not carry a bravado about you. And but again, I'm sitting here as a 54-year-old man who has learned that over a course of a lifetime. But there's been plenty of times in my career while I was playing, while I would lean on an older guy and say, explain this play to me, explain the concept. I don't understand this. Or even say, I can't do this. Because there are things that you can't do. And it's okay by saying, I don't know how to, or I don't know. Or I think the worst mistake many people says, I can do it. And then and they know in their heart that they need help or they're incapable, but they just try to throw it out there. And this whole idea of fake it till you make it doesn't work. It doesn't, it always leads to a half effort or not being done in excellence. And so I think the vulnerability of asking for help and letting other people know that you need something is a big part of maturing and reaching your full potential.
And Kevin, especially, I mean, you've got coaching experience at the college level. I mean, all different levels and stuff like that. When you hear about, I mean, would you look at asking for help as because a lot of times there's that stigma that if to feel weak or it's a weakness or something like that. Would you look at that as a weakness or as a strength, a student that is willing to ask for help or they need
Oh,
help?
there's definitely not a weakness. There's a strength in having humility enough to say, I don't know, or I don't know. I'm scared, or this bothers me. Um, and I'm not saying it's easy. Even as an adult, that's not an easy thing to do. As an adult who's achieved what I've done in football, that everybody thinks you can do it all. And the great thing about being a dad is your kids think you can do everything. My daughter's 23 and my son's 27, and they both have a daddy do list when I go visit them. And my daughter just flat tell me, that's a dad job. That's not a me job. That's a dad job. And that's her way of saying either I don't know how, don't want to, or sometimes it's just I can't. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think for those of us like myself, teachers, coaches, you got to know who are the ones that are willing to open themselves up to help, because that's part of it is recognizing those who actually do want to help and want nothing from you. They just want to help you to reach your fullest potential.
Yeah, and I mean self-awareness is so important. I mean, just to understand, and that's a sign of a strong leader when you realize where you have weaknesses at and say, I need help in this area because we don't have all the answers. We need each other, and football teaches us that. I mean, football, the
Yep.
game of football teaches that innately. Is that you can't do everything yourself. You need each other, and you need each other's unique expertise. You can't do what your quarterback can do. Your quarterback can't do what you can do, and you need each other. And so,
I wish I could do what a quarterback does. I would have made a whole lot more money.
so something unique we always do, because we're talking about give back as well here and helping each other, mentoring and give back is one thing we always like to do is go live to our museum. And a lot of times we go to the Hall of Fame gallery because it's so important. But we have a very unique exhibit that we just opened up called Character. It's a year-long exhibition we're doing here. And one of the focal points is in our what used to be our presentation center. Kevin, you know the big glass windows, that room there where we do a lot of presentations and stuff like that and meetings. That has now been turned into a gallery that focuses on examples of character and give back, and including the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So I've got my teammate Nathan Martin, who is there live, who's going to talk about that for a minute, and then he'll have a question for you as well, Kevin.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and Kevin. Thanks again for being a part of the program. I went selfie mode so I could be a little bit more mobile here in our new exhibit. We're so excited here at the Hall of Fame in Canton to really, we just had a ribbon cutting about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, to unveil this exhibit, and it's just called Character. It's all about the life lessons that football not only teaches those that play it, like yourself, Kevin, but those of us that just watch the game and are fans of the game. And I'm surrounded in this room. There's quotes from Derek Brooks saying, most people will forget what you say. Some will forget what you do, but no one will ever forget how you make them feel. Cam Hayward, the Walter Payton Man of the Year recipient this year from the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're all trying to make a difference in so many people's lives. And throughout this exhibit, we tell the stories of men like Pat Tillman. You can see, we have his dress uniform there, the service that he showed, the humility he showed to give up an NFL career to serve our country. We've got stuff from Brandon Burlsworth, Bryant Young, Joe Delaney, Emlyn Tunnel, and so many more. And I want to walk over here to the other side of the room because Jerry mentioned it. A key part of this exhibit, Kevin, is the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And so our students can see here we have the Walter Payton Man of the Year award trophy. And a lot of players, and maybe you can echo this, Kevin, would say, the team success, everyone wants to win a Super Bowl. If you really boil it down, I'm sure a lot of guys would say they'd love to be in Canton and have a bull jacket like you're wearing today, win an MVP. But really, if you get to the heart of a lot of guys, it's getting an award like this Walter Payton Man of the Year award that recognizes not really so much your on the field accomplishments, but your off the field accomplishments. And, I was doing a little bit of research. I saw when you were with the Jets twice in 2001 and 2005, they put you up as their recipient for their team. And you were honored in that capacity. And then, you were voted on at the league level. But why was it important for you throughout your career with the platform that you were given to find ways to give back to those around you in the communities that you played in?
Well, I think it's so important to understand it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you got. And I always believed that my life as a football player, I came to believe that my life as a football player was a platform to reach many people, as many as I could. In the Hall of Fame, there's many pedestals with trophies and things like that on it, and there's busts that where our gold, where our bronze helmet or bronze bust sit, and ultimately, a lot of people, not just in the football realm, but would put themselves up on a pedestal, say, look at all the great things I've done, but they as far as achieving whatever success they have, but they can't ever tell you what they did for other people along the way, because many people don't ever think in those terms. I think for myself and many other players in professional sports and just all over the world, there's an end goal to what I'm doing is what can I do with what I got, and that took me a little while to learn that. I had the opportunity to join with Winthrop University Hospital in Garden City, New York, and I helped them create their Child Life Services program, where they would have a program where they'd come in and help the transition into the hospital and stay in the hospital easier and more comfortable for young kids. It was a selfish motivation because my kids would go to that hospital and they would stay at that hospital. So it's always tied to something that's dear to me. For me, I did a Mawae movement when Katrina hit New Orleans and Louisiana, and we put together a community service project where people loaded up semi-truck full of supplies and we sent them to New Orleans so that they can help, tied with my church down in Louisiana and things like that. But ultimately, it goes back to like Derek Brooks said. He goes, people are going to remember how you made them feel. There's no greater compliment than when you read something that somebody said about you, and you get to see this, especially when you go through the Hall of Fame process, what all your teammates say about you and things like that. And I think for me, they tell me how loyal I was to them and to the team, what I did for the community, things that I did to help them out or to encourage them or to give wisdom to them. But for me, I always felt like, what good is it for me to have all this stuff and not help a single person with it? Children's Cup. It's a ministry that builds wells in schools for third world countries and villages around the world. And to be able to go back to one of those and say, man, I remember when we broke ground on that care point. And then to see now the next generation of kids that came out of there are now leading those points. And so you're making a legacy impact in something because somebody will remember what they got from what you built for them or what you handed. And so that makes them want to join in down the road or do something special for themselves. And I think many players in the NFL, Hall of Famers or not, they have foundations because they want to give back to communities that they grew up in, the youth leagues that they started them, help out somebody that helped them out. And that's what it boils down to. And the Walter Payton Man of the Year award is the highest award that any NFL player wants and tries to achieve. And to actually have the patch on you, they didn't do it when I was playing, but now they wear the patch on the uniform that they were the Walter Martin, the nominee for the club. And I was honored to have that to have earned that right twice with the Jets and things that I did with the Long Island and New York community and nationwide. And I had an opportunity to be a teammate with Anthony Payton, Walter Payton's son. I think it's Anthony. Yeah. And so to be around him, I got to meet Walter Payton in person, which for me was a highlight of my young career. Sitting on the bus at Soldier Field, and he came up on our bus and just sat down next to Curtis Martin, our running back, who was also a Hall of Famer. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I'm like literally sitting in the seat across from Walter Payton, and not, I always knew what kind of player he was, but to learn the kind of person he was and to actually see it in person meant a great deal to me. And he set the example of how it is to use your platform to make an impact on other people's lives. And the greatest thing, like I said, is to come down the road and hear the stories about how you personally impacted somebody else, and now they're making a difference. And what you've done now is created generational continuation of what you did as a player and what you did in the community.
I love all that, Kevin. And it really makes me think, though, because we get this question a lot from students. They go, I'm not Kevin Mawae. I'm not a pro football player. I don't have the money that a pro football player has. I don't have the social media following that a pro football player has. I don't have the reach. How can our students, in their communities and with their families, how can they give back and make a difference? And I'll let you answer that, and Jerry can take it from there. But can you really just speak to the students with where they're at, in their places, their schools, their communities? How can they give back and make a difference?
You don't have to do something great. You don't have to do something big. It's little things over time that build up to create big movements. And there's this butterfly effect. And so I don't know if they teach it in school. It's called the butterfly effect, where the flapping of the wings of a butterfly at 3,000 miles away in some other part of this world create an effect to where the flutters from the wings cause a great storm on the other side of the earth. And that's what your life should be. It's just create a bunch of miniature butterfly effects. And as a student who doesn't have resources and finances, stuff like that, you start in your classroom, start in your building. There's a kid in your hallway that is going through something. Just be there for him. There's a kid that you go in the cafeteria and he sits by himself all the time. Go sit next to the kid. Just ask him questions. Hey, tell me about yourself. Just befriend somebody. And at the very least, treat people how you want to be treated. It's the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated, and people will remember you for that. And but you don't have to have a big fundraiser. You don't have to have this big movement in your community. You don't have to invest thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just invest the time. Just it takes 2 seconds to stop a guy in your hallway and say, "Hey, man, you look a little down today. What's going on? Are you okay? You need anything?" Yes, please, thank you. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I mean, things like that go a long, long way in one, developing your character, two, developing your reputation, people think about you, and three, to be the person that you really want to be. And it'll come back to you. People, I think nowadays it's a fast food society. Everything's click, I want to click back. And many times you'll never see the good that you did until 10 years down the road. And that's happened multiple times in my life with teammates, things that I've learned that they said about me. Even it warms my heart to sit there and watch some of my former teammates and even opponents when they gave their speech. Walter Jones, I never knew that I was one of those guys that he was watching. And here he goes, he gets in the Hall of Fame before I do. But he recognized me in his Hall of Fame speech as somebody who he watched how they treated people, how they treated rookies, and really how they worked and committed themselves to their craft. And Zach Thomas was a nemesis. We were about ahead 60 twice a year for a lot of years, and for him to pay the respect back to me in his own speech. It's those kind of things that mean the most than anything. Trophies and rings and all that kind of stuff, that'll all go away, but you'll never forget when somebody honors you for what you did when you honored them.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Kevin. I was doing a program probably a couple months ago with Rod Woodson. We were at a school here locally and out talking about the same things. And just when you talk about, sitting down and talking with someone and someone who looks like they're down that day, Rod uses this analogy that's impacted me now that I always carry with me. I've been doing this for 25 years, the Hall of Fame, working with the greatest football players ever. I continue to learn, things as I go in life and apply them in my life. But he said, you never know what's in someone's backpack. You don't know how heavy someone's backpack is,
Yeah.
and so you don't, and you might be able to help lighten that burden that day for that student. And you never know, that one hello or sit down at lunch for that student that sits by themselves or whatever, to say, hey, I'm going to sit with you for the next week or two or the rest of the year. And just it could change the complete trajectory of that person's life because you cared about someone.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage you guys to look for those opportunities. And as Kevin said, you don't have to have a gold jacket. You don't need to be a millionaire. You just got to have a heart that wants to help people. And so
I want to share a little story
yeah,
about
go for it.
this. When I was playing for the Jets, I'm strong faith, strong Christian. I would read my Bible in the locker room, and I had a teammate of mine ask me a simple question. It was a simple question about an event in the Bible and what happened afterwards and whatever. And so, a lot of people could just throw out a couple sentence answer and be done with it. And I was like, I want him to know that I'm taking this seriously. One, two, that I'm gonna give him a thoughtful answer on this. And so I went back home and I actually researched the story in the Bible and the before and after and all that kind of stuff. And I wrote him a letter. And also, I bought him a brand new Bible. And all I did was tuck the letter in the Bible and I left it on his locker. Never said a word about it. He never mentioned it, never thanked me for it. And I didn't do it because of that. I did it just, I wanted to, it was a way for me to share my faith, to use the platform God's given me. And whatever happens, happens. So fast forward 15 years later, this teammate got traded to another team. And his career ungloriously ended, had an injury and just ended his career. And I'd heard that he went through some tough times and divorce and things like that. But I get a phone call out of the blue. It's a message that was left on me. I still have it, the message. I've saved this message for years now. And he goes, I don't know if you remember me, but this is who I am, which I knew who he was. And he goes, I want you to know that you did something for me when we played. You might not even remember it. I asked you a question, don't even know what the question was, and you left the Bible in my locker. Now, he came down on hard times, divorce and all this kind of stuff, and he was feeling like he wanted to harm himself. And he said, I was sitting in my closet, about to do the unmentionable. And he goes, all I can remember is that you left the Bible in my locker. And he goes, and that stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. This guy goes on to become a state director for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He's worked with college students in a college program as their character development guy. And he is in full-time ministry now. And so then that's just a little act. I responded to a simple question, and who would have known 20 something years later, he's a director of character development in a major college football program, and he's a full-time minister, and he called me to say, hey, this is where I'm headed. And it's all because of you took the time out to spend just a little moment with me. And for me, that's huge. That's a win. Whether a jacket, ring, doesn't matter. That is a huge win in my life. And it goes back to treat others how you want to be treated, and it'll come back to you. But so that's the reward. That's where the rewards are, to see the happiness and the joy and the success of other people, and that you played maybe a small part of it. That's a Super Bowl win bigger than any that I can ever imagine.
Crowns and jewels in the crown, my friend.
Yep.
So, hey, let's get a couple more questions. We're rolling on. We've actually already gone almost 40 minutes here. Let's just do a couple more, and then I'm going to do some rapid fire and then closing remarks. I think it's important too. Now, it's hard to say because I was at the Hall of Fame when 9/11 happened, and we were actually having a golf outing here. We had Hall of Famers here, and they had to take trains and stuff home because the airlines shut down and everything else. But it's hard to believe that probably students here, when you say 9/11, they're probably like, what is that? I mean, but
Are they even teaching it in school these days?
Yeah, so they are teaching it, but hopefully
Okay.
hopefully they're remembering it. So
Yeah.
but talk about, you were in New York City playing for the New York Jets
Yes.
when that happened. Talk about just the experience.
Oh man, that was tough. It was a Tuesday morning. I was going in to get the workout in. We had already dropped my daughter off at daycare, and so I go in before we leave that morning. My sister-in-law calls and say, "Hey, did you watch the news? A plane flew into one of the Twin Towers." And just like everybody else, you thought, "Oh, somebody went off course. It was an accident, or whatever." And then by the time I got to work, which was only 3 miles away, um, we were watching, everybody was in the training room watching it, and the other plane flew into the second tower, which was where World Trade Center 1. And so everything stopped. Everything was crazy because all of a sudden, like our practice field was in the flight plan, was like right over the flight plan of like JFK and LaGuardia. So there's planes coming over the building all the time. And all of a sudden, just this, all you knew were there were jets flying everywhere. So you knew something, this was bad. And then, of course, we found out that the plane hit the Pentagon, and then the one went down in Pittsburgh or in Pennsylvania. And and so the world stops. It's like all of a sudden football means absolutely nothing. And it's like, we got to get our daughter back home. My in-laws were visiting from Louisiana, and now they're stuck they're gonna have to drive back to Louisiana because you can't fly. And so the world our country was tossed into this uncertainty, and football became very insignificant. Um, Wednesday came in, we tried to practice. It just didn't go well. We ended up getting scrap and practice midway through. And um, the biggest thing we had to deal with is whether or not we were going to play that weekend. We were supposed to travel to Los Angeles, or not Los Angeles, but to Oakland to play the Raiders. And it was all depending on whether or not the commissioner at the time, Paul Tagliabue, was going to make us play. And I was fortunate enough that I had teammates of Vinny Testaverde who grew up in Long Island and grew up in New York, and he shared his thoughts with us, and he told us that he wasn't going to play the game regardless of what happened. So as a team, we voted to not play a game that week, and we let the commissioner and the NFL Players Association know. And lo and behold, that Friday, the commissioner canceled games for that week. So to be in the middle of it, one as a leader in the locker room, to tell the rest of the players in the NFL that the New York Jets are going to forfeit this game if they make us play, which caused a domino effect that every other team said we're not going to play, and then Tagliabue canceled the game that week. Um, to know that I was a part of that, to have a part of that decision was a big, is a prideful moment for me in my life as a leader. But the other part of it, the sad part, was I lived in Garden City, New York, where predominantly everybody worked in the city, worked in the financial district. And to go by the train station 3 weeks later and there's still cars out of the train station, and knowing that there was somebody in our community, there was nobody that didn't know anybody that passed away in that tragic incident. And so that was tough. And to all of a sudden, and then for me, really, it was a confirmation that in the grand scheme of things, football is just a game. It's a way to make a living. It's something that was fun. It's entertaining. But life is more important than a game. And so to have to go through that whole process was tough. My teammates and I took a vote to not play that game. And I believe the envelope that has those ballots in it are still in the Hall of Fame. I think it's one of the envelopes that I gave to the Hall of Fame. And the only reason I know that is because I went through my inventory of stuff that was listed there, and one of them was an envelope that was taped with my name written across the seal. And that envelope contains the votes that my team took to not play the game, which pressured or encouraged the league to cancel games for that week. So there are many things that went on, but I'll never forget it. I know exactly where I was when the first call came in. I know exactly where it was when World Trade Center 1 fell. I remember going down to ground zero and just trying to encourage the first responders, the New York Police Department, the fire department. Yeah, that was tough. And it's a part of our history in our country that needs to be taught. It needs to be never forgotten. I had the opportunity to go down to the memorial, the 9/11 memorial, a few years back, and to be in that area and understand the significance of what happened there. Yeah, it'll be ingrained in my life forever.
Yeah, my parents always told me they remember when, JFK was assassinated,
Yep.
Dr. King and others, and they said they remember exactly where they were and what time and what they were doing. And that's the same thing now with 9/11. We do have older students here, so I'm assuming they all know what 9/11
Yeah.
is. But you talked about one last question, and then we'll go to some closing questions here real quick. Um, you talked about the NFLPA, the Players Association.
Yep.
You've been a part of that, during your career and then after your career. Why was that important to you?
Well, yeah, I think all told, the years I spent in the NFLPA or worked closely was about 14 years of my career. Well, the career and the 2 years following the end of my career. Um, One, you have to understand that the NFL is a business. That's a multi-billion dollar business. And I try to encourage young players when they come into the NFL to understand the business of the game. And that doesn't mean just X's and O's and going to practice and meetings. That's understanding where the money comes from, how the money's split, how they come up with the salary cap numbers and all that kind of stuff. And so I held an interest in it early in my career. And it wasn't until my 5th year in the league that one of my teammates suggested I be our team rep. And for those that are watching, it's like being your homeroom rep for student government or something like that. And you represent all the guys in that room when you go to bigger meetings later in the year. And so over about, I think it was a 4-year period where I was a team rep, maybe 6. And then we had a group of leaders at the time who identified a handful of guys, 8 to 10 guys that they felt would mature up and grow up in the NFLPA leadership and eventually become, vice presidents, member of the executive committee, and possibly president. And so they mentored us in a way that we understood the NFL, the working of the NFLPA and the business of the game a little bit more than just the general population. And the more I got involved and the deeper I got into it, the more I felt compelled that I needed to be a bigger part of this. Eventually, I got elected as a president of the PA in 2008. 6 months later, our executive director passed away, and I was the lead on a national search for our new executive director, who became Morris Smith. And then in 2010, the NFL opted out of our bargaining agreement, our contract, and the players were locked out for 5 months during the off season and into training camp. And so to be a part of all that, for me, it was a way to serve the game, to serve the players of the game, to be a servant leader. I did it to make the game better than when I found it. I did it to understand my profession more and to understand it more deeply as far as the business of it. And then eventually to lead the game to where when younger players come in, they'll have a better opportunity than I did. And we did that. In 2011, we secured the collective bargaining agreement, June 11th, 2011. And the salary caps went up. The salary cap per team when I was a rookie was $30 million per team. Now it's almost, I don't know, was it almost $300 million a team, something like that, some ridiculous number. And the revenues went from like $5 billion in 2000 when I became a player rep. The revenue this year was almost 20-something billion dollars. And so that's a lot of money. It's a lot to understand. And then it's kind of funny, like I had the opportunity to go testify before a congressional hearing based on some labor agreements and labor laws that were taking place during the time I was there. So that was an experience of a lifetime. I actually read through the transcripts the other day, given the fact that, inauguration was yesterday and all these orders are coming down, and to say that I sat in one of those hearing rooms and gave a testimony, for me, it's just a sense of pride, not because of look what I did, but because of look what I did to serve the guys that came after me. And I think that's a great part of it. What are you doing now to make those who come behind you make it easier for them or make it better for them? And I think as a parent, we do the same thing. I want my kids to have a better life than I did. My parents wanted me to have a better life than they did, but all the while not lose the values of hard work and commitment and excellence and integrity and responsibility and all that stuff that encompasses what a Hall of Famer is. But you want people to know that it was never about you. It was always about to make it better so those that came after you. And I would say that, encourage that to all the high school students that are listening. You're gonna leave that high school at some point in time. And when you leave that high school, what are the teachers going to say about what you did while you were there? About Johnny was a great kid. He was an example to all his younger classmates, and he was a good student, and he did his very best and all again. Or, man, I'm so glad that kid's out of the school. I couldn't stand him. I mean, because there's that going on. And but for me, it was a sense of duty was really what it was to serve the players in the NFL through the NFLPA and to be elected as a president, two-time president during some of the most strenuous times of the organization's existence. I take great pride in that, and I was thankful for the opportunity that I had.
Awesome. Well, one question here, and then we'll go to, I'm going to do a quick rapid fire section. So, you have the bronze bust. You have the jacket that's on. We also have the K Jewelers Hall of Fame Ring of Excellence right there. What does that symbolize to you?
That's exactly what it means. Excellence. When they give you the ring and they talk about the ring, they talk about all the elements that are in a ring and what it means. And it represents everything I did. The blue represents it's a sea of excellence, surrounded by diamonds on the outside that represent the fans that come to watch us play. The diamonds, they got a big diamond in the middle, the ones around the big diamond in the middle represent my teammates. I didn't do this by myself. The fans gave me the accolades. My teammates trusted me and believed in me. In the middle is myself. That's who I am. That's me in the middle of all this, surrounded by all these other people. I think, my Hall of Fame speech, and I would encourage anybody that's listening to go watch it in its entirety, link to the Hall of Fame or on YouTube. My trek to the Hall of Fame was the journey, and I try to recognize all those people that were part of that journey. And the ring of excellence is a small symbol of what that really meant because I'm in the middle, but it had everything to do with just me. It had everything to do with everything that was around me and my family, my friends, my teammates, my coaches, my teachers. It just hundreds of people. I have one picture, it's my favorite picture from a Hall of Fame party. And I had teammates from high school all the way through every team I played in the NFL, coaches at all levels. And I can tell you a story about every one of those guys in that room. And that's what it's about. It's about others. It's about being selfless. When I said it in my speech that football is the most selfish game in the world, but it takes the most selflessness to be successful at it. It's the only one game in the world where you got to give up yourself so somebody else can succeed. So somebody else can succeed, especially playing offensive line. And so with that, that's what the Hall of Fame ring means to me. The ring of excellence is exactly that. It's a ring of excellence because it takes a lot of people in your life to help you achieve that level of excellence that puts you in the Hall of Fame.
Rapid fire questions. One word answer. Ready? And then we'll ask your closing remarks. Least favorite stadium to play in?
Kansas City.
Tailgate or watch at home?
Watch at home.
If you could play any other position other than the one you played, what would it be?
Quarterback.
You already answered that one. Yep. Favorite Halloween candy?
Oh man.
I know.
I'm peanut butter cups.
Peanut butter cups. All right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Any superpower, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I've been asked this one before. I can never come up with an answer for it.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Oh, beach, 100%. I'm looking at snow in my backyard and I can't stand it. Like I'm sunshine, beach all day long.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl. Night owl. I hate getting up in the morning.
If you
I'm thankful. It beats the alternative. I'm thankful to get up. I don't want to, but I'm a late night person.
So am I. That's why I do all my work at night. The one food you could eat the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ice cream. Ice cream. Taggart's.
Taggart's, there you go. Local.
For all those don't know, Taggart's is a Hall of Fame. It's a little ice cream store in the Hall of Fame. In Canton, Ohio. But Taggart's, when I'm there, Culver's, I got to make my own concrete mixer when I was in residency. But if I had to have a last meal, it's going to be a quart of Pralines and cream ice cream.
Well, hey, I mean, you shared a ton here today. Anything you want to end on with the young people that either?
No, I just want to thank everybody for joining in and just listening and engaging. I think it's important when you have opportunity to meet people who reach the highest level. I think some of the best things you do is just ask questions. And how did you get there? How did you do that? What made you be that? What's your thought process? Because lots of times you have in you all that you need to be what you want to be. You just need the encouragement to do it. So I want to encourage everybody to strive to be the best you're capable of being. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. You're special. You're unique in every way. And God's got a great big plan for each one of you guys. So just want to wish everybody the best of luck. God bless. Stay warm.